Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed speaker has arrived. We will begin shortly. Kindly settle down and take your seats as we prepare to start. Thank you for your cooperation. DFA officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, FSI colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are truly delighted to have you all with us today. This morning, we welcome you to the first Ambassadors Lecture Series for 2025, a platform for heads of diplomatic missions in Manila to share their knowledge, experiences, and advocacies. This event aims to foster stronger understanding and collaboration, guiding us toward deeper insights, actions, and shared goals of cooperation, economic development, and peace. My name is Rai Espigar, and I will be your host for today's event. To officially begin the program, allow me to introduce our guest lecturer for this morning. Our speaker for today is the Ambassador of the Federative Republic of Brazil to the Philippines. His Excellency Gilberto Fonseca Guimarães de Moura has an extensive career spanning several decades. He holds degrees in law from the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro and in history from CEUB University in Brasilia. In addition, he has advanced studies at the Brazilian Diplomatic Academy Instituto Rio Branco, where he has also completed a thesis on Poland in transition and the configuration of a new political and economic scenario for the relationship with Brazil. Admitted to the Brazilian Academy in 1974, he began his career in the Brazilian Foreign Service in 1975. Over the years, he has held a variety of significant roles, both within Brazil and abroad, including postings in Berlin, Ottawa, La Paz, Singapore, Paris, Warsaw, and Shanghai. He also served as the ambassador to Slovenia from 2012 to 2014 and to the Kingdom of Thailand, Kingdom of Cambodia, and Republic of Laos from 2014 to 2017. He has held high-level positions in international organizations, such as serving as the Deputy Permanent Representative to UNESCO from 2000 to 2003, and coordinating Brazil's participation in several international summits and diplomatic forums, including the Africa and South America Summit and the Dialogue Forum for India, Brazil, and South Africa from 2007 to 2010. His notable diplomatic achievements include leading the repatriation of Brazilian nationals during the war in Lebanon. Throughout his career, the ambassador has received several prestigious awards for his service, including the Brazilian Air Force Merit Medal Santos Dumont, the Pro Ecclesia et Pontificia Cross of the Holy See, the Grand Order of Rio Branco, the Order of Military Merit of the Brazilian Air Force, and the Royal Thai Red Cross Medal of Appreciation. In 2022, he was appointed as the Director of Projects at the General Secretary of Foreign Affairs, continuing his distinguished service to Brazil's diplomatic and international objectives. To share with us this morning his insights on Brazil and the Philippines, a legacy of friendship, a future of partnership, please join me in welcoming the Ambassador of the Federative Republic of Brazil to the Philippines, His Excellency Gilberto Fonseca Guimarães de Moura.
Thank you really very much. It's an immense pleasure and honor, that you have given me the floor. Well, I feel very confident. I like very much to be in this academic universe. And I have to tell you also that for us, it's quite special to be here because for the first time in 80 years, we have a very young, bright, smart, Filipino diplomat in our diplomatic academy. And take into consideration that I'm here, I'd like, to honor this occasion. And what I'm going to speak about is about Brazil and the Philippines, a legacy of friendship and the future of partnership. Sometimes I have the impression that, people have not a very comprehensive or even wide idea of my country. There are some cliches that's quite natural, so I see many young people here, and also many students, my colleagues. So maybe in those half an hour, 45 minutes, I will give some ideas and the degree of relationship between Brazil and the Philippines. I keep on saying that we have so much in common, and every day being here, I do feel it. Now, you are Asian, but we are a little bit of everything. We're a little bit Asians, we're a little bit Europeans, we're a little bit Africans, so we are a real melting pot, so we feel very comfortable. And also, confessionally, in terms of religion, we share also the same, religion, and you were most Catholic and also Protestants, and so this also brings together the two nations. But anyhow, so let's start then. Oops, sorry. Then as I said before, I have here the special thanks for the fruitful partnership with the FSE. And what's this building? This building is the Instituto Rio Branco, where I come from, where I have graduated after me in my law studies, and I passed exams to enter the Brazilian Academy. And you can see it's a quite modern building. It's linked to our ministry. And, okay, so we can go to the next one. And why is important? The young gentleman there is Miguel Antonio Gonzalez from DFA. He's at the Office of Americas. So he's, as I said, the first Filipino in our diplomatic academy. And you can see the first slide, you can see him again. The right side, he's there with our Undersecretary Ambassador Saboya, who was here in October in 2023. And in the middle, we have our Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was also here in last year, Ambassador Moura Vieira. So, the Instituto Rio Branco, and then I come to give the first explanation about Brazil. Maybe next slide, I can explain Rio Branco, why the name is Instituto Rio Branco. Because of this gentleman in the middle, is the Baron of Rio Branco. He was the one who has defined the Brazilian borders very peacefully. No war, nothing at all. So this gentleman, he's the patron of the Brazilian diplomacy. He's a baron. I have to explain that Brazil was a monarchy up till 1889, and so that's why you're going to see some counts, some barons, some dukes. It's because that belongs a little bit to our previous history. So this gentleman, there is even a coin with him, showing him, and so he was the one who has negotiated peacefully with other countries, and at the time many of those countries were colonial powers like France. So the way how Brazil is today is the same. There was no major change. There is only maybe, there was a time in which French Guiana, during the Napoleonic Wars, was incorporated to Brazil, and present Uruguay was named Cisplatina, was one of Brazilian imperial provinces. But everything was done in a very peaceful way. So, introducing the Brazilian Academy, we can go further, and then I have to explain, Itamaraty. Here you say DFA. We call ministries, and you call departments. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs is the only case in Brazil that people, or ordinary people, they don't identify. They all call Itamaraty, like the Quai d'Orsay in France. And why Itamaraty? Because of this gentleman there. You can see that the Count of Itamaraty. Because the first building where our foreign affairs was located was the house of the Count of Itamaraty. And Itamaraty is an Indian name. It means pink stone, or from Tupi-Guarani. And I have also to explain to you that when Brazil became independent from Portugal, the nobility in Brazil became an empire, the same royal family, but it was the Kingdom of Portugal and the Empire of Brazil. And all the nobility in Brazil changed their titles to Aboriginal names. Instead of saying the Count of Isabella, it became the Count of Batacan, or local names, the Marquis of Palawan instead of the Marquis of Santidalgo or San Jose. So there was, a way of showing that we are very nationalists. So even, let's say, the nobility decide to change. And in those cases, we have in the middle, we have the picture of our palace in Rio de Janeiro, the Palace of Itamaraty. And there, I passed my exams to become a diplomat. It starts in December, it goes up to March. We have a different phase of the exams. And then, when the capital moved to Brasilia, Oscar Niemeyer was the Brazilian architect. He decided to keep the arcs. That's why nowadays the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Itamaraty in Brasilia, has a little bit of the shapes of the previous one in Rio de Janeiro. You can see the palace, and behind the palace you have the buildings where we work, but it has grown very far, so we have a third building. It's a round building, and it goes on, and reach the Instituto Rio Branco, the Rio Branco Institute. So now I introduced our DFA and our Instituto Rio Branco, the Diplomatic Academy. We can go further. And then, as I say, in terms of country, Brazil is a little bit fat, and we have Federal Republic. We have 8 million, more than 8 million quadrat meters. And it goes, we have borders with all countries in South America, with the exception of Ecuador. But before we had it, during the Pacific Wars, I believe Ecuador lost their borders. But we bordered with the French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Argentina, except Chile. It's a pit, I'm sorry. But in heart, we are very close to you. And what I'd like and again, you can see that the landscape varies. So in north, you have the Amazon region. Then afterwards, you have the savanna that looks very much like, South Africa, Botswana is a little bit higher, so 1,500 meters above sea level, like Brasilia. Brasilia can be a little bit cool sometimes. And then you go direct to the south of Brazil. The south of Brazil is also a little bit different because we have, the temperatures are low. We are close to Argentina and Uruguay and Paraguay. So we have the different temperatures and the different ecosystems. And then we can go on. The population. Now our population nowadays is not growing that fast, but still 211 million inhabitants. So you can see that, I mean, there is a very strong, even this picture is very, is obvious. We have 50 shades of colors. So we have, the Aboriginal people, then we have the African who came to Brazil, the Portuguese, of course. Then we have many immigrants. In the 19th century, many Germans came to Brazil, many Italians came to Brazil, and then afterwards, many Japanese. People say that after Tokyo, São Paulo may be the biggest Japanese city in the world. And after Beirut, São Paulo could be also the biggest Syrian-Lebanese city. As a matter of fact, we have 13 million Brazilians with Syrian-Lebanese origins. And also have many Germans, Ukrainians, Poles. So they locate more in the south of Brazil. But that makes a real melting pot. And then we are so proud to have all those shades, dermatological shades, because it makes us so relaxed. I know it's not easy because we have, of course, a social issue to have a more equitable society in which, everybody grows together. But still, although we have all those affirmative measures to try to have a more democratic country in all senses, we believe that, we have the potential, to speak the same language, to have the same interests, and so I do believe it's an asset. And Brazil also, the linguistic harmony, yes, we always speak Portuguese in Brazil, only the accents, maybe you have different accents in the Northeast. My colleagues here, I have colleagues from Bahia, I have colleagues from São Paulo, from Rio, so we have different accents, but it's the same language. So even the Aboriginal language, of course, they are maybe just local groups, and but it's Portuguese is our language, no? And concerning the Portuguese-speaking countries, you have the CPLP, is a community of Portuguese-speaking countries. Just in order to know, there's not only Brazil, but Portugal, of course, the mother language, Portugal, Brazil, and then we have Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde Islands, Saint Tomé and Príncipe, and then we have Timor-Leste, close to you. Those are, let's say, the Portuguese-speaking family. And then about Brazil. So you see the variety. Then you have Rio de Janeiro. I come from Rio de Janeiro. I have to say that's the most beautiful place in Brazil is Rio de Janeiro. But, and then afterwards you have São Paulo. São Paulo, you can see, the skyscrapers, is the financial center, economic center of the country. And then you have Salvador, and Salvador da Bahia. And that's very colonial. That's the most Afro-Brazilian city. And Salvador was the first Brazilian capital. The second one was Rio de Janeiro. So when King John VI arrived to Brazil, escaped from Napoleon, he settled the kingdom in Brazil. That was the first case in history where a monarchy abroad came to the Americas and has established the kingdom in the colony. So then Brazil became part of the kingdom of Portugal. Later on, it became the kingdom of Brazil, Portugal, and Algarves. Algarves is the south of Portugal. And so let's go on. And then what I have here, I had to speak about the Amazon, the rainforest lungs, the biodiversity, the carbon sink, and the different communities. All those is our treasure. That's why we are so directly involved with the environmental issues. And we are going to hold the COP30 in Belém. Belém, I forgot to show in the Brazilian map, is a city capital of the Brazilian state of Pará in the north of Brazil. Not very far from another state named Amapá and close to the French Guiana. And so that's going to take place the COP30. And that's very conical. We decided to establish the COP30 in a place that would be the heart of the Amazon. Okay, and then a little bit of history. Why we're so close to each other? The fault is the Treaty of Tordesillas, because when the world was divided into between Portugal and Spain, the no discovery world. So we have this shared colonial past. If you see the Tordesillas Treaty, It goes all the way and reach the Philippines. Theoretically, the Philippines would be in the Portuguese side, not in the Spanish one. No? So there is many, many discussions of this issue, and Portugal was quite interested in Moluccas, present in Indonesia, for the fisheries. But still, Brazil, it would be half of what it was, according to the Tordesillas Treaty. But afterwards, there was the Iberian Union, because the king of Portugal passed away in a battle in Morocco, Mauritania, against the Moors, and had no children. So the heir was the king of Spain. So that's why I would say that between 1580 and 1640, Brazil and the Philippines had the same boss, Philip II of Spain. No, we are under the Spanish crown as well, just to show how much we are close in terms of history. No? Okay, and then we can go on. So, just to be very short, that's not, to show the history, but to make it a very simple way. So, Brazil officially was discovered in 1500, by the Portuguese, who, established sugar plantations and explored mines, and there was gold mine operations, and this time is the Brazilian colonial time. Then, as I said before, the United Kingdom of Brazil, Portugal and Algarve, that was between 1815 and 1822, when Brazil became independent from Portugal. But was a kind of independence, a no-blood independence. Why? Because it was the same royal family. No, the only difference that Brazil became an empire. No, the Bragança family, and Portugal was a kingdom. No, so that's why our relationship to Portugal has never been. We don't have any kind of, let's say, very traumatic experience. Our emancipation was not easy, and you had battles for sure, but still, our relationship with Portugal is still very good. And the empire was between 1822 and 1889. So our first emperor was Peter I, and then the other one was Peter II, and then his daughter was Princess Elizabeth Isabel, and then we reached the Republic times in 1889. No? But I would say that during the empire, and the image that we have of our last emperor, Peter II, is a very positive one. So he left Brazil, but many schools are under his name. He was an intellectual, a philosopher, and still nowadays there is a kind of a warm approach to the last emperor, because he was a very simple person, very friend of Goethe, and he was very close to all the philosophers, and so it's someone that people still nowadays have a kind of respect, I would say. Then finish a little bit of history, and let's go to economy. So Brazil is known by its agriculture, so we are known as a major producer of coffee, soybeans, beef. We do contribute a lot for the good, food production in the world, but also the mining, the manufacturing, service. I was talking to my colleagues recently to see our GDP. Still service is the most important part, maybe 6-7%, and then comes industry and agriculture. But still, agriculture plays a very important role in our production. And then when I speak about agriculture, it's a little bit a history of success to say that we can achieve everything, even with difficulties. Because Brazil was a food importer, and it became a global agriculture supplier. So, and we in the mid-70s, and we had also a very good, in 1974, I remember when I went to Brazil, we had also a strategic partnership with Japan. Japan helped us a lot within Savannah, in what's called Cerrado. And we began to make a huge, there's a company, agency, Embrapa, who has research on seeds. So we started being produced and studying, and Brazil became a major supplier of food all over the world. So, and there was what we call the agricultural revolution that has started in 1973, and that we reach our present today. So as you can see here. if you take a plane, I mean, you leave Brasilia or even São Paulo, you go to the south, I mean, everything is planted. It's a very beautiful landscape you have. So, I mean, for instance, grain production is more or less 71 million. That was in 1899. And we reached 320 millions. And then you know that we have the global leadership in soy, coffee, and beef. Is a major producer of corn. And so nowadays, almost half of our exports are on commodities, I mean, on agricultural productions. But then we go to science, technology, and information. It's so important for us that when I first arrived, I decided to create here in our embassy. First of all, we did some major changes in our embassy here. First, now we have not only the trade sector. My colleague, Mr. Igor Magalhães, is there. He's the guy who helps me a lot, my right, my left arms, and I mean, he's very much involved in agriculture. I mean, the system accreditation has helped immensely, I mean, to develop the context with the Philippines. But now we decide to have also agricultural attaché, a lady who just arrived in December, Mr. Virginia. She's not unfortunately here today, but just to prove that for the Brazilian government, the Philippines became a major market, and we want to cooperate with you. So we have enlarged the embassy to have an agriculture sector, not only the trade sector, but the agriculture sector. And also we have now this young man in the middle, the first row, Mr. Juan Bonfim, who is in charge of science, technology, and innovation. So he is our nerd, our scientist at the embassy, and he makes me visit all different research centers, different universities, because we do really want to cooperate with all of you. And so we have, we want to complement capabilities. Our idea and our target is to have a more integration knowledge in different sectors of the economy, is our national strategy. And so if you go, you can see, I just want to show you some major, you can go to the next slides. We have the Sirius Laboratory, and they have also the electronuclear and the Alcântara Launching Center. No, that's the state of the synchrotron light source, and we're developing, and also we have the Brazil nuclear power plants, and we have a very nice agreement with Argentina, so that's to show how mature our relations with the nuclear field. Always think about, let's say, peaceful means of reaching a good energy. And the Alcântara Launching Center, and that's to explain to you that on daily basis we are having contacts with Philippine agency, space agency, because we are cooperate with them, and we even sign an agreement with them. So we are trying also not to concentrate only in this kind of agriculture and trade, but also to operate in different sectors, and the scientific one. And so first of all, we had tried, and I'm very thankful to Juan, say in public, because he make a huge plan of identifying the major actors in the Philippines to try to find out, and Brazil has agreed and proposed many actions. We're still going on, but I do believe that sooner or later we're going to have our first major projects. It's still in the area of Brazilian Technology Innovation Center, so we have the Albert Einstein Teaching and Research Center in healthcare innovation, especially in medical technology. That's only for pharmaceutical and medical research. Then have the Brazilian Nuclear Submarine Program, the ProSub, and we have a very good relation with France in this area for the nuclear submarine that we are building in São Paulo, and also all for the benefit of AI government initiative in the Brazilian National Plan for Artificial Intelligence. So those are the areas in which our government is trying to focus. But then we go to Brazil-Philippine relations, no? And I'm very proud to say that has a long, long history. No, as I said before, we share many historical, cultural elements that bring us together, and we do really want to make a difference from now on. Please. So, as I said before, just a comparison, just to have an idea about our dimension, Philippines, but still we have 212 million, you have 110, so, but you are growing, so we believe that we are going to catch you're going to catch us. The diversity, I say before, so just an idea, summarize what I have said before. We can go on. And that's something beautiful we decided to include because, I mean, for us, it's something that, I mean, gives us an immense proud because that was the presence of the Philippines Independence Day. We had a Brazilian diplomat who came here, and I mean, he said something very beautiful, and we kept it in our embassy still nowadays. It was Minister Carlos da Silveira Martins Ramos. He came at the time and has written, if you can see in the next one page, he said, "My trip to Manila was the most sensational moment of my 25 years of pilgrimage there." You can see around the world as a diplomatic representative of Brazil. I spent a week in the Philippines capital, intense emotions that will never be erased from my memory. It has been a true privilege, extremely rare these days, to attend the birth of our new nationality. So, of a democratic republic, to which the Latin word feels inexorably linked to the identity of blood, religion, customs, and he goes on. But still, and I mean, it was very emotional for his part, so just to say that since that very moment, the Philippines became quite special for us. And then I have also this document that we have the original in our archives in Brazil. We have another one here that was signed twice, and we gave one to Secretary Henrique Manalo when our minister was here, because it was the official recognition by the Brazilian government of the Philippines and the country. That was on the very day, the 4th of July, 1446, and was signed by the acting Minister of Foreign Affairs, Souza Leão Gracia. And about the bilateral relations so far. So it started in 1946. In 1960, the Vice President, Diosdado Macaval, was in Brazil. In 1965, I mean, Philippines opened an embassy in Brazil. As a matter of fact, I believe they first opened in Rio de Janeiro. The capital was moving to Brasilia because the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs was the last one to go to Brasilia. So there was some resistance. So, I mean, the government left in 1960 when the capital was ready, but the embassies were not willing to go to Brasilia. They wanted to stay in Rio. Rio was much nicer. You had the beach. It was the cultural life was there. So there was a little bit of resistance. Nobody wanted to go to the middle of nowhere. So, but afterwards, in 1972, the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, no, look, from now on, if you don't go there, we're not going to respond to the note verbal. So if you send a note verbal, we are not there. So you have to be there in Brasilia. So in 1972, everybody left and went to Brasilia, and also the government gave lands. So every country decided to build its own embassy because Brazil is very modern, so there was a way of showing its architecture. No, the Germans, for instance, the same, your embassy in Brasilia was built by this architect that did the Deutsche Oper. You know, the famous one. So it's not a replica, but still, the trace, every country wants to show how beautiful is my architecture nowadays. Was a time of Le Corbusier in France, Oscar Niemeyer. So there was a kind of a mobilization to do a kind of showcase. And I don't know if you know a little bit about Brasilia. Brasilia looks like a bird. You have the main body, and they have the two wings. So in the main body, you have all the different ministries. And at the very end, you have the powers, the senator, the chamber of deputies, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. The Senate is closed, the Greek concept of the senior gentleman, and the chamber, it has an architectural form of open. One's like that, the other one like that. In the middle, you have the executive power. And then you have the different ministries by seniority at the time when they were created. And then you have a lake that was, many rivers that were brought together, the huge lake. You have the South Lake and the North Lake. And so nowadays, Brasilia is the third biggest city in Brazil. São Paulo has more or less 12 million. Rio de Janeiro has 7 million, and Brasilia has more than 3,500,000. So it has grown very quickly and has surpassed places like Salvador, Recife, Belo Horizonte. So other cities were middle size. But then come back to the bilateral relations. So we opened the embassy in Manila in 1970, so 50 years ago, more than that. In 1979 came the first Brazilian minister to the Philippines, was Mr. Shigeaki Uek. By the name you can see it's a Brazilian Japanese, you know. And he was a very famous Brazilian minister of mines. And I remember his idea is to create here in the Philippines the base, the hub for the whole Asia. We would bring the minerals, would be processed sometimes here, and would be sent all over. So that was the first beginning of identifying this part of the world as quite important. Then, I mean, President Gloria Arroyo went to Brazil in 2009. And it was important because at this time it was when you have your 4P programs that, I mean, Bolsa Familia, a kind of that check transfer that you have here that was a little bit inspired President Lula in his first mandate to have this cash transfer for the poor. And then 2010, we start with the different, those consultation meetings, you know. We had in 2010, 2011, so we had all the way during the pandemic, of course. We had some problems, but in the meantime, we had also many authorities. The Minister of Agriculture was in Brazil, your Secretary of Social Welfare, Coração Julian Soliman. So we have the names of the authorities who have been in Brazil. And finally, we had here our Minister of Foreign Affairs last year in August, you know. And it was, I mean, a turning point. It was a quite important moment because it was the first time that we had a Brazilian minister being here, so it was quite historical. And he was extremely pleased to be here. It's not, I mean, vague words, but he was. He liked very much. And I mean, and now we have many, many bilateral agreements that we can show in the next one. Now it starts with the very simple, the waiver of visas, but we had also fiscal evasions. We have also, I mean, agreements for passport people to be able to work here. And we established many mechanisms, so it goes on. And also the MOU that signed with the Brazilian Academy, Diplomatic Academy, and the ones of the Philippines, all those bilateral agreements. But then in the next one, I have our minister here when he came here, and then when we signed the agreement of technical cooperation and the agreement on the field of education. And those are the ones we want to work very deeply with it, you know. And also the MOU on space cooperation that was signed in this moment. And of course, I mean, there was very productive talks with Mr. Henrique Manalo. We shared global commitments. And of course, then comes, I mean, the agreements that we still want to do, and I do hope the FA can help us to implement the next round of agreements that, I mean, we're looking forward, like defense cooperation. We have a MOU on defense, but, I mean, we still have to finalize and sign the implementation arrangements. We have also the classified information that we want to sign, the legal cooperation, that's very important for us, and energy cooperation is another area in which we would like very much to work with you. So I have been with Secretary Lutilia, and I mean, your Minister of Agriculture is going to Brazil as well, maybe in May. We're just looking, Argentina and Brazil. We're looking forward. So in different fields, we are trying to act with you. And concerning trade, as I said before, I mean, in the last year, the growth was more or less 30, correct me if I'm wrong, but 34% growth in our exports. We reach more than 2 billion, but we really want that, I mean, we could, there is a very unbalanced, and that's why our worry, we would like very much that we could try to have a more equitable balance, a more trade balance. It's still a little bit pro-Brazil, would be quite interested that we could try to have it more reasonable. But still, from our basically our commodities that we export to you, but on the other side, concerning you, we have the is manufactured products, and basically all related to integrated circuits and engines, I mean, panels, also copy machines and printing. And that's why I would like to try to explore other areas in which we can work together. So we can see by this spectrum, I mean, the movement, how it has grown in the last few years. So in blue is the Brazilian exports, in yellow the Philippines, so you can see it's still unbalanced. The movement has grown in the last few years, especially in the last 4 years. So that's a picture from 2012, 2024. No. And then it comes to be our planes. No, is the, you know, the Philippines welcome the delivery of 6 new A29 Brazilian Super Tucanos, and there will be also others coming now. And Embraer, I don't know if you heard about, is a Brazilian company that produces not only, there is Embraer Defense and Embraer civilian planes, normal regional planes. And those planes, we have different range, but for the Philippines still is the military ones for training. But I believe, I mean, Secretary of Defense calls me Tocayo in Spanish because he's Gilberto Teodoro, I'm Gilberto also. And he also, I mean, we have a very good relationship, so I believe that we can cooperate in defense issues. And we are trying to do more. In last year, 6 new, last year in December we signed it, so the planes will come soon. And then the next one. Yes, but you have also investments in Brazil. It's not a question of only Brazil, Brazil. It's also the Philippines through the ICTSI. No, as you can see here, they have the Tecon swap and also in Rio Terminal. So it's a major investments, and they are growing very fast in Brazil. I was with CEO of the company, and I mean, they are doing a very good job. So we really would like very much that the Philippines could be present in Brazil, in the Brazilian harbors, and I mean, to work this platform. And also with the sugarcane plant, you know that I mean, you have the traditional sugarcane, so I have been in Negros Occidental, so I met many people. There was a mission from Brazil who came here from the universities, and for the Brazilian ABC, Agência Brasileira de Cooperação, is our JICA, let's say. And I mean, they were here, they are trying to, I mean, to help the Philippines. President Ferdinand Marcos, I mean, when I presented my credentials, he was very clear on this as an area in which he would appreciate very much we could cooperate, I mean, to recover your sugar industry. And I have been in touch with the Sugar Authority here, and we want like to go on. We have already the framework to cooperate with them. The technicians came here, they have seen, I mean, the system that you have adopted and what we can do to improve it. So we are very focusing in this area of the sugarcane production. So, and we set a mission, then there was a mission in Brazil, other people are coming here. That's something to show you, because not only sugarcane, but also ethanol industry development. We want to help the Philippines also to work with the ethanol production. And we know that's quite important for you, not only food security, but also for energy. And I have this picture shows the mission was here during the visit. They paid. And the next one. Okay, I mean the biodiversity. We are so, Brazil and the Philippines, we have so much in common now to protect the nature, and we have a huge maritime space. We have the forestries, and that's an area that we can share our heritage, not only the biodiversity, but also the technological tools to maintain this conservation, you know, and to collaborate in different areas with different technicians. That's an area in which we believe that we have potential. And also, as I said before, the space cooperation reaching the new horizons. So we have started a program and to help you to monitor the data, satellite system. We know how important it's for you, and maybe with our experience, especially in the Amazon, now we have, I mean, a huge area that we have to cover. So data, we had all those floods in Brazil, how you had in the Philippines, and we know how important it is to have a very accurate, good technology on this issue. And academic cooperation, yes, okay. My colleague, he's also in charge of academic relations. So we have been in the different campus university here, because we like very much to work with, there is not so far any kind of Portuguese charter here. I mean, Portuguese is not learned here, it's natural, even Spanish not that much. But I mean, it's not only the language, we'd like to have maybe a chair of Portuguese in the university, so you're working for in that sense, and also some Latin American studies. Maybe my colleagues and I, we could maybe work together to try to introduce a little bit more of the Latin American studies in the universities, and work also in the research centers. Now each one of us has an experience in different areas, and we could together try to figure out a way of cooperating with the universities. So I have the University of the Philippines, I have the La Salle, we have Santa Cruz. So we are exploring all the possibilities that we can find to try to develop the different programs. No, also fine arts, because I mean, just to say that when I was in Negro Occidental and also in Isabela, when you see the rhythm, the clothing, it's so similar to Brazil, Brazilian carnival. Now it's carnival time in Brazil. People are dancing. It's a holiday in Brazil. But when you hear the people dancing here and all the way he dress, it looks so like in Brazil. It's so interesting that we have all those kind of costumes and dance and rhythms. And I believe that we can develop very much the fine arts as well, and have all colonial class of music, a very beautiful music as well. So I believe that this people-to-people highlights, this context can help immensely. And then our expatriates here are we have around maybe 500, 600 Brazilians living in the Philippines. It's not not even diaspora, there are very few. And we have also the Filipino community in Brazil is not very expressive, but we have many seafarers who are here, and I believe there are 4,000, we give 1,000 work visas now. So the embassy has been delivering those visas very quickly, because I mean we have a very good contact with them, with the different organizations. And then, okay, just to say that we have major events in Brazil. One of them was the G20, was in Rio de Janeiro. We have the summit was there, last year, and I believe was very important because Brazil has focused in the poverty and hunger alleviation, energy transition, and have over the global governance. So I do believe was quite successful. And now we are the Alliance Against the Hunger that was launched during this meeting. Now we are going to have the BRICS Summit. Now is Brazilian time to share the BRICS. And you know that BRICS has been expanded. Now we have Iran, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and Ethiopia. And we have also special partners like Thailand and Indonesia and Nigeria. So different levels of cooperation within the BRICS. The BRICS not aiming at change the international order. It's only a better governance. No, it's not kind of a revolutionary approach. To try to replace one thing for the other. It's a very informal platform, and it acts in different areas. We have the figure of what's called Sherpas and the sub-Sherpas, and we have different sectors, science and technology, health, and so on. And we have annually the meeting of the summit, and the summit now is going to be in Brazil. That's why I mentioned to you. But very important comes now is the next one, is the COP30 in Belém, I have mentioned before. And I do hope that Philippines could be close to us and work very, very. I was at the French embassy recently because the call from Manila was commemorated the 10 year of the call of Manila. And I'd like to thank very much the presence of colleagues there. And Senator Lagarde was there. I know that she's very much committed with this issue. And it's going to take place in Belém. We're trying major struggles because Belém is not a very big city, and we expect more than 4,000 people going to Belém. And we're even thinking maybe the possibility that part of the meeting is going to be in Rio, the other in Belém. But I was very impressed also with some NGOs of the Philippines who are very strongly present there, preparing many, many projects. And I mean, we are trying very much. It's very complicated. The world's not very easy nowadays, very complex, but we still want that maybe we can try to find out a way of protecting the environment and develop and have also the mechanism, the 5 pillars that we call for sustainability and preservation, use of technology, and also have the finance ways to preserve, I mean, responsibly diversified responsibilities. So that's going to be a major event that, of course, I mean, the focus will be the rainforest preservation, the indigenous people's rights, and that's also another issue that, I mean, Brazil shares with the Philippines, the Aboriginal questions, how to preserve their identities and their protection. That, I mean, you have even created a ministry for the Aboriginals, and also to try to find out the different models of sustainable. So, and concerning, I mean, the Brazilian stage, I mean, you know that we work very hard with social inclusion, take into consideration that Brazil is a society that is still struggling to be more equitable, and of course the social inclusion is a must. Climate action is also another issue that Brazil is a big country with a huge rainforest, so we are quite responsible for this. The UN reform, and I'm happy that I have some colleagues here that share also the same as we do. We don't want that, I mean, to change a bit the representativeness in the United Nations Security Council. That's is aimed at, I mean, we are very grateful for the Philippines that's supporting us. I mean, the idea of having a more amplified UN Security Council, I mean, that should be much more representative, and also the post-Bretton Woods institution that need also updating the right of votes. So we believe that, I mean, that's time for a major change. You have different actors in the world, and we have to give a voice to Southeast Asia, to Africa, and all actors. We cannot stay with something that we had inherited from a previous time that's not more representative of our reality, especially nowadays. And then, I mean, that's I have said, meager diverse environment, the rich culture, the developed nations, the vibrant democracies. That's something very important. Our identification with the Philippines is our democracy with capital D, and that's something that we would respect immensely. So just thank you very much. No, and I have a small little video that just say because Carnival time, so we decided just to show you a little bit. But thank you very much for your attention. I'm open to any kind of question that you like to raise. I don't know if you'll be able to answer all of them, but still. I was thinking about thank you. As today is Friday, I think maybe a bossa nova would be nice. I mean, and some caipirinha, if I could, I mean, to offer all of you. But thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that insightful discussion on the friendship and partnership of Brazil and the Philippines. At this point, we will now open the floor for comments and questions. For the participants, kindly approach the microphone in the center and introduce yourself by stating your name and your affiliation before asking your questions. With that, the floor is now open. Anyone? Yes?
Good morning, Your Excellency. I'm Philip Michael Pahe from the University of Asia and the Pacific. I attended your lecture before, and also I have participated in the film festival at the University of the Pacific. I enjoyed that one very much. Yeah. This is more of a comment rather than a question, because as a while ago you said that your relations with the Philippines, in your relations with the Philippines, with us, you would want to make an impact. And so I would like to suggest that perhaps your government could teach ours about participatory budgeting, because this is one democratic innovation that I believe originated in your country, in Porto Alegre, and it has deepened democratic participation in Brazil, because a few years back I was part of an NGO which tried to jumpstart participatory budgeting in the Philippines. Well, did it work? Yes and no. No, because the political landscape here is quite different. But yes, because the people got interested in participating in the budget process. And so I don't know how this could start again, could be revived by your embassy. Perhaps you could start with sister cities. If, for example, Porto Alegre has a sister city in the Philippines, you could pursue that track. But I believe that other than what you've shared, I think it's more on the deepening the democratic participation which the Philippines and Brazil could work on. Thank you.
Look, thank you very much for giving me the chance. Concerning let's say, this relationship between the different communities, or maybe cities, municipalities, we develop this kind of sisterhood, no? I mean, Porto Alegre with Davao, or Rio de Janeiro with Manila. But my experience, because I was posting China before and in some other countries, that you have to monitor that in a good sense. Because if you just create this system without a plan of work, sometimes it's not very feasible. But you mentioned something about budget. So is the open governance, because recently I participated in Manila, and it was the Minister of budget, that was a public-private, was a transparency government, because Brazil was one of the OPG, and in which citizens would participate in elaborating some basic budgetary main aims. In other words, you would participate of the process of allocating resources, and that's something that we really like very much. The idea is not very easy, I have to tell you. It's very complex, and you have to mature. But still, for sure. And if by any chance, I don't know if you're still working in this ONG, but please, doors open. If you can maybe formulate a very concrete proposal, be my guest. I'd like very much. Civil society for us is quite important. And I'd like to channel some ideas and to discuss also with the partners of the government to try to find a way, even it's a very simple beginning, but if you can reach us, let's say, a platform that could help and be an example. So please, thank you very much for the chance you're giving me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. In the interest of time, we can only accommodate one more question. Anyone? Yes.
Bom dia, Ambassador.
Bom dia.
Thank you for your presentation. Muito obrigado.
De nada.
I am Jay Shen. I'm a researcher here in the Foreign Service Institute, and I am from the newly established Biodiversity Studies section. And I read in Brazilian Political Science Review, and of course what you said earlier, that Brazil is one of the most prominent countries in the world that have successfully leveraged your biological megadiversity as a tool for your country's soft power. Of course, who wouldn't forget the Rio Convention in 1992, and of course your upcoming hosting of COP30. Now, I want to know, Ambassador, what current projects that your government is doing in our country to conserve biodiversity, and what recommendations you may have on Department of Foreign Affairs Philippines on how we can integrate biodiversity conservation in our foreign policy, because here in our country, much of the burden in biodiversity conservation is under the DNR. And I'm curious, what are some best practices that DFA can emulate in your country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs in terms of environmental diplomacy? Muito obrigado.
Angela, thank you very much. First of all, to say some words in Portuguese is very charming. Thank you very much, and your accent is very good. No, just tell me, for us it's a major issue, and but I have to confess to you that it's also not a very easy, task. Why? Because, I mean, Brazil is a democratic country, you have different governments, so there are some governments have a different approach concerning environment. They see sometimes the excess of care would be translated into kind of hindering development. And you know that Brazil, the agribusiness is an issue, and you have the entrepreneur sometimes who are very eager and greedy, and they want more, 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 more. So all the regulatory, what we are trying to do, to try to regulate a little bit. I mean, to try to preserve our environment, but at the same time also to have sustainable process of planting and exploring. But I mean, it's a huge, Brazil is a continent, so even the control is not very easy. And you have different agents that, I mean, actors who sometimes don't speak the same voice and have some difficulties. But what we are having also in Brazil is trying to bring together different representatives from the industry, from the health, from the environment, from culture. As I said before, one of the major issues we have in concerning the Philippines is the Aboriginal population. How you do to preserve them. Now, how you can do that, I mean, you, at the same time you explore, but keep the environment, the habitat, the regional habitat, in a good sense, to avoid them. So it's a multidisciplinary approach in which you have to cover different issues. We have all a plan, different plans that, I mean, we're going even to present. Some of them need, of course, financial support because many, many of them are very costful. We have some major debates, for instance, in the Amazon, the delta of the Amazon. No, they have discovered some offshore oil. And there is a major discussion if should we explore or not explore. If you do, how should you do it? So, I mean, the temptation, I mean, we have that fossil oil, but please, that's the devil. So, and you have different currents in the government. So we have also to put to discuss this issue, the Minister of Energy, the Minister of Environment. Yeah. Because, yeah, it's true. So, and I'm very, very sincere that we don't have the results. I mean, we have our Minister of Environment, Ms. Marina Silva, who is a traditional lady, who is she's herself, he's from the Amazon. So it's someone who feels very concretely, they're dermatological, I mean, all the impact that we have. But the Brazilian population as a whole is suffering very much of the climate change. Because we had the floods that you had here, we had also in Rio Grande do Sul, in south of Brazil, and it was catastrophic. And if now in Rio it's very hot nowadays, sometimes winter is very cold. So, I mean, this difference of climate is impacted very strongly, also in the agriculture. So I believe that, I mean, we are trying to cover the different spectrum of the society and to try to figure out a way of if a win-win situation. It's very difficult. It's not very easy, as I said. But I mean, our government is going to present in Belém some major proposals. But of course we have to share the support of many nations who are also ecological friendly. And sometimes nowadays it's a little difficult to have all those resources that we need.
Thank you for your insights, Ambassador, and thank you everyone for your active participation. At this point, I would like to invite His Excellency to give his concluding statements for today's lecture.
Thank you.
Any concluding statements, Your Ambassador?
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Well, look, thank you really very much. It was a pleasure to be here. Salamat po. Of course, I mean, all of you who have posed questions, maybe did not pose questions, as I said before, I love to have people come into my embassy to talk to me, and don't be shy, please. Your voice is very carefully welcome, because, I mean, all my collaborators are very young, very open, very brilliant. I'm very proud of them. And I'm sure that you have the different channels of communication and to incorporate the ideas that, I mean, you believe that could be present either, I mean, not only the COP30, that's a separate event, but a kind of cooperation that we can have with the NGOs, with the universities. And thank you very much to the FA to the chance to have. I'm very honored to be here, and also to your institute to have invited me. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So, thank you, everyone. We hope that today's lecture and conversations have sparked new insights and learnings for everyone. So at this point, we would like to express our sincerest appreciation to His Excellency for his presence and invaluable insights on our country's relations. So may I please invite the Foreign Service Institute's Director General Francisco Noel R. Fernandez III to award our simple token of appreciation. It's one of FSI's publications, The Seeds of Peace, the Philippines and UN Peacekeeping Operations from 1962 to 2001. May we also invite our guests from the Diplomatic Corps and the DFA for the photo opportunity with the ambassador. Once again, thank you, Ambassador de Moura, for your presence today. We also appreciate our gracious audience for your active participation and to the organizing team for their dedication to making this event a success. Before we conclude, just two quick announcements. FSI is committed to continuous improvement. We value your feedback, so please take a moment to complete the short evaluation survey. Simply scan the QR code on the back of the program brochure to share your thoughts on today's session and complete our client satisfaction survey. To our dear guests, we look forward to having you again at the next Ambassadors Lecture Series. For updates, please follow FSI's social media pages. The program has officially ended. Please join us for refreshments at Function Room 1A. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.